Hi guys, it's Mr. Lansford here again today. Today we're going to look at some of the effects of the Great Depression and how the president at the start of the 1930s, Herbert Hoover, tried to deal with them. So, what actually happened during the Great Depression? Well, one third of all banks failed. Unemployment rose to 25%. Housing prices dropped sharply by 67%, and America lost 65% of an international trade. This is a huge problem. 25% of Americans were unemployed. That's the highest the number has ever been throughout history. So many Americans were out of jobs. You can see there is an unemployment line here, which we'll get to later. But all these people waiting in line are waiting to try to get something for their families. Many Americans, because this would go hungry, and many of them would lost their ability to take care of their family, so they needed to figure out something. Many Americans became desperate to try to figure out how to feed and take care of their families. Also, a large amount of deflation happened, which, we talk about inflation a lot today, but deflation was arguably worse than inflation in this situation. Each dollar was valued more, but dollars were just hard to come by. People just didn't have any money, and getting money was hard. So it did cause a lot of problems for businesses and employees. So Herbert Hoover, the current president at the time, tried to fix stuff. He tried to raise tariffs to try to hopefully invigorate American businesses by not letting international companies like companies from France or Great Britain or Germany to compete in the same market, right? So his idea was if we make it so importing stuff into the country was super expensive, then people would just buy American goods to help American companies succeed. Also, he tried to create public works so people had jobs to work. So the problem, it's a simple concept. The problem is not enough people have jobs. Well, then start making jobs for people by either having them construct schools, libraries, bridges. He even constructed the Hoover Dam, the very famous Hoover Dam, named after him. He greenlit the project to make it so the Hoover Dam was made, and all these people who were unemployed found themselves making money and doing a job, whether that's constructing or whether it's construction on schools, bridges, etc., that kind of thing, right? Also, he tried to stabilize wages, so he tried to make it so wages couldn't fall. Wages being the amount of money people made per hour, from falling under certain amounts, so people who did find jobs could still pay for, their families and stuff. Unfortunately, this was not enough. The government intervention that was done was not very successful. In fact, in some cases, probably made it worse. Like those high tariffs, they actually just probably shot America in the foot because it made it so American businesses essentially had less people to sell to because once America put up their high tariffs, Europe and the rest of the world put up their high tariffs in response, and so American businesses couldn't sell overseas anymore. Um, Also, during this time period, it should be known that government really getting involved in the economy wasn't really a thing. Um, Having the government bail out businesses or subsidize businesses is just wasn't really how people thought about it, right? Remember, for a very long time, the American government's policy with business has been laissez-faire, right? You guys remember laissez-faire from the Gilded Age? The idea that the American government should stay out of business as much as possible and the market will eventually work itself out, right? But the market isn't working itself out and the government staying out of it isn't helping anything. there was a huge growth in homelessness during this time, and those homeless people essentially had to figure out where they're going to live. And these growing slums essentially started to pop up in every major city around America. You can see in the picture over here, these are houses made out of scraps, right? These are essentially just, you know, like hand-built houses by people who couldn't afford to actually have a normal house built. So they build their own houses out of scrap. And these slums become known as Hoovervilles, as a criticism to Herbert Hoover, to let him know that he's the one responsible for all these people living in these slums, is because he didn't act and he didn't do anything. Okay, so that is the end for the effects of the Great Depression and how Herbert Hoover handled it. Next, we're gonna get into the final lesson, the New Deal, which we'll get into next class. I hope you guys are staying safe and staying healthy. Mr. Lansford signing off.